Coming up, Tiana's Bayou adventure receives tons of artificial plants on the exterior as Disney CEO Bob Iger gives us his first thoughts on the interior. The proxy war is set as activist investor Nelson Peltz names a surprising new board nominee, and calls for Iger to be fired are leveled by Elon Musk as Disney continues their ad boycotts on X. All that and more on the way. This is Mickey Views News.
All who come to this happy place, welcome.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me.
First up at Tiana's Bayou Adventure, in recent weeks, the exterior of the attraction has transformed from something approximating what we had with Splash Mountain, albeit with a different soil color and some added moss here and there, which I thought was a rather tasteful transformation of the rural Georgia look, moving that to more of a Louisiana style as part of this overhaul of Splash Mountain to Princess and the Frog. That tasteful update went full Rainforest Cafe mode the past couple of weeks as Imagineers began installing artificial leaves and more leaves and more leaves and even more leaves, to the point where now the exterior has more artificial plants than that corner you have in Hobby Lobby. We've known for years, based on backstage tests of the weathering of these types of leaves, that we would see some of this greenery added to the Bayou facade at this attraction. But this is a ton of greenery, a lot more than any of us expected. I've never been to the Bayou, so let me know if you guys who have, if this reminds you of the Bayou, if this looks about correct. This reminds me more of like a rainforest, like Rainforest Cafe or something like that. This is in Frontierland, by the way. I told you earlier this year that Disney plans to get rid of Frontierland, just do away with it, and this whole area is going to become a new mini New Orleans Square area, which will consist of this ride as well as a retheme of Pecos Bills to a Tiana restaurant. Frontierland itself is on the chopping block as Disney now feels it is culturally insensitive. And some insiders on other sites, they said, oh, Brayden's just making stuff up. Look at this. Does this look like they're trying to stay true to the theme of Walt Disney's Frontierland? Are they really trying to fold Tiana in with the existing Western Pioneer America's theme that you have in this section of the park? No, they want to go a totally different direction. This does not jive at all with the street that leads to it. And it seems like, and I reported on this too later in this year, that due to a lack of money, Frontierland's execution may be held off. After all, we are getting what I consider to be a quite faithful update to Country Bears, which is a good sign. So the Country Bears, it's going to be sticking around. Disney's working on that update right now. It's quite exciting, some of the stuff that they are doing with that. We'll find out in the coming years what the fate of Frontierland is at the Magic Kingdom, but it's definitely something worth putting on your radar that there is a tumultuous situation happening there. But getting back to Tiana, we're seeing lots of Imagineers on site as of late as Disney attempts to get this update done in time for that late 2024 opening timeframe. Folks on X this week were saying, if the outside looks like this, what on earth have they done to Splash Mountain's beloved interior? Some are imagining it might look a lot like the Navi River Journey attraction you have in Pandora in the Animal Kingdom, where it's a mesh of physical elements as well as screens with a very impressive animatronic. It's not a bunch of animatronics that are low-grade animatronics like you had with Splash. It's just there's one really nice animatronic and that's about it. I will tell you, based on what I have heard, yes, you should expect something like the Navi River Journey here with this update to Splash Mountain. When you ride this new attraction, you are going to notice that parts of the inside, the dark ride portion, are just slightly tweaked versions of the sets that we had before when it was themed to Song of the South. You will also see entire areas that are now projections. You'll see areas that are just lighting effects, and you will see a couple of brand new animatronics that our sources say are quite impressive. We actually got a preview of one of those a couple months back from Josh Tomorrow himself, the park's chairman, and in total on this ride we are getting 17 animatronics, according to Disney. Mind you, they removed 68 animatronics as part of this overhaul of the attraction. In an exclusive, this is from a high-level source, believe it or don't, Disney CEO Bob Iger, he recently visited this attraction to preview it, to see what they've done with the inside so far, and to ride the ride. And you might say, hang on a second, Brayden, how can he ride the ride? There's no water in it, there's scaffolding all over the place, there's no ride vehicles functioning. Well, what he really did is he walked a portion of the inside. So basically he walked along the dark ride portion that you have inside the building. And Iger, whose predecessor Chapek is the one that I think Iger pins a lot of the errors with this project on, allegedly said as he finished walking it, quote, "This is really boring." Now, he didn't actually ride it, so we can surmise the lack of the log flume drop, the lack of the thrill ride aspect missing here. The fact that he just walked through the inside, it definitely did not make it more thrilling or really help with his review. But that is not a charitable first review, first impression of the interior here, coming from the CEO of the company who is doing this project. And mind you, that quote that we heard, it comes from an Imagineer. It's not like some seething Disney hater who wants to say, oh, everything's terrible. It's not like these people want to tell us, oh, Iger thinks that my project is bad. So I do believe this quote, and this is what we know at this hour with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which looks a lot like if you took the Rainforest Cafe and the Disney Springs Water Tower and put them together. Let me know what you guys think of this attraction so far. It is opening next year in 2024, by the way. Next up in the news today, we are approaching proxy season, which is where shareholders of the Walt Disney Company are going to get to vote on a number of issues, key of which is the constitution of Disney's board of directors. Disney has announced their 2 nominations. They recommend that the shareholders confirm, but you also have a dissenting group of investors who believe the company's funds are being mismanaged and the company is headed down the wrong track, and as such have nominated 2 board members of their own against Disney's wishes, which shareholders can vote in favor of. This announced today from Nelson Peltz's Tiana Partners, which is the beneficiary of $3 billion in voting shares in the company. Tiana's just announced director candidates include Nelson Peltz himself and Jay Rizzullo, former CFO of the Walt Disney Company, as well as former president and chairman of the Disney Parks and Resorts. This is a surprising headline for Disney, I think, who up until this point has primarily fought off Peltz from a board seat by claiming that he lacked the proper experience to have one. Well, now Peltz's running mate is perhaps the most qualified board member you could possibly have at the Walt Disney Company. Disney's current board nominees are random outside hires. Here, Peltz wants to put Disney's former CFO, who served in the CFO role from 2010 to 2015, a great financial era for the company, on Disney's board. In a statement, Peltz said, quote, "To resolve the malaise and crisis of confidence among Disney shareholders, the board needs fresh perspectives from truly independent directors selected by the shareholders themselves." And Jay Rizzullo said in a surprising statement for a recent former executive of the company, quote, "The Disney I know and love has lost its way." Things are definitely heating up here. Now, my thoughts on Jay Rizzullo: when he was in charge of the parks, which was 2002 to 2009, that was a somewhat lull in creative output at the parks. CapEx domestically was not great. We did get some stuff like Expedition Everest, and near the end of that, you had the great financial crisis, which was a big contributor to why things were kind of lame. And of course, that was the period where we had the last big Save Disney campaign, which resulted in the ouster of Eisner and us entering this Iger regime that we have had the past 2 decades. But in Jay Rizzullo's role as CFO from 2010 to 2015, he rubber-stamped the massive CapEx increases at the parks, which got us everything from Cars Land, New Fantasyland, Pandora, Galaxy's Edge, all this stuff. And here's the thing, we aren't talking about putting this guy back in charge of the parks or, in charge of any of this stuff. We are talking about a board seat. We are talking about a seat on the table that oversees what the executives are doing. And here's the thing, anyone who thinks that Jay Rizzullo is less qualified or not as aligned with our interests as the current board members who are absolute know-nothings insofar as Walt Disney World is concerned, they're mistaken. Jay Rizzullo, he would be a far better asset, in my opinion, for the shareholders and for us, because Jay Rizzullo is someone who knows the value of the parks. He knows how much money we bring into the company. So I don't think that the focus would be so much focused on the studios as it seems to be right now. Not to forgo mentioning the Peltz front as well. Peltz is nominating himself to the board, which some people think is rather, it's like, really, Peltz, you're really putting yourself on the board? Here's the thing is that Peltz, who apparently isn't good for the board, I don't know if Peltz would be good for the board or not. But what we do know is that Nelson Peltz, he is the beneficiary of $3 billion in the company. He has a financial stake $3 billion strong in this company. The existing non-management directors on the current Disney board who are making all these bad decisions, no CapEx for the parks, checking off on all these awful movies that are total box office flops, they own collectively less than $15 million in Disney shares. So whose interests are more aligned with the success of the company and with the shareholders making money? The guy with $3 billion in stock under management or the group with less than 15 million shares between them? Let me know what you guys think. Last up in the news today, also on this topic of, is Disney headed in the right direction and things like this? You have this ongoing, rather tabloid tier, if I'm being frank, fight between the CEOs, those being Bob Iger and Tesla's Elon Musk, which is nevertheless quite an interesting situation. This back and forth started when Bob Iger pulled Disney's ads from X, the social media platform previously known as Twitter, which Elon feels it was unwarranted for Disney to pull their ads. There's a lot of other people online who feel that it was warranted. That's a can of worms well beyond the scope of this channel. What is within the scope of a Disney news channel is Elon's been continuing his attacks on Disney in particular, not advertisers in general, not Apple and Microsoft who also pulled their ads. It seems Elon is getting into the Disney war in particular here, where first he appeared in an interview on Monroe Live, where he questioned what Walt would think of what is happening at his company today.
Well, and you have to wonder, what would Walt Disney think of the company that is his namesake today?
I'm telling you what.
I mean, I think Walt Disney's turning in his grave faster than a drill bit.
I can't. Wow.
Elon is quite upset with CEO Bob Iger in particular, where the latest development is he is now calling for Bob Iger to be fired from Disney and suggesting the company's leadership be sued. And this lawsuit thing does touch on something deeper that we've heard about this past year, which really hasn't been worth covering too much because not a whole lot has been going on with it, that there are Disney shareholders who feel the product is being so mismanaged, it rises to the level of Disney's executives are defrauding their investors. And there are lawsuits like this already in the works or in process in court, which is pretty wild. There's this whole idea that by Disney putting money towards box office bombs that were obviously going to bomb, that is a misuse of funds. That the executives knew that these weren't going to be, big films or anything like that, but it's all about keeping the Hollywood system going. That's something that Iger is very big on. It's about, giving money to your friends, quite frankly. And then also there's the stuff where Disney's been coming very close to outright lying about streaming results on their financial reports. That was both under Chapek and even under Iger here, where the subscriber numbers are calculated very strangely. The comparison dates keep changing. The goalpost keeps moving. So you really have to decode the performance here. It seems like they're trying to hide stuff. Whether any of this amounts to something that could affect Disney's behavior or change how things are done at the company, where we actually see it manifest in the parks and in the movies, that remains to be seen. But this is an interesting thing to keep an eye on into 2024, which looks like it will be a tumultuous year politically and for Disney in general, which still has no new heir apparent. And it's very clear the current CEO, Bob Iger, is visibly sick of this. I wonder if he regrets coming back because it's been a crazy time and it's clearly not something that's been very easy on him. You can see it in his interviews that he did not expect it to be this difficult. And I think that he came back to repair his legacy, and what he discovered is the problems just keep escalating, and it's not even about legacy anymore. It's just about keeping the wheels on the wagon, so to speak here. One other possibility I wanted to throw out there with this Elon versus Iger debacle is, fans of Elon's, they have been pushing for this. If Elon's going to talk a big game about Disney, about how the current leadership isn't good and all this, why doesn't he buy some stock? We're coming up on a big proxy war here where Iger, he has folks that are accumulating shares to try to maintain the status quo. And then also you have the Perlmutter side who hates Iger and is assembling a big massive pile of voting shares to try to vote Iger and the existing board out of there. Then you have the world's richest man here who's talking a big game about how the current Disney leadership needs to go. You know, Elon theoretically could be someone who could buy more voting shares that could be contributed to the Peltz Perlmutter cause and completely flip the script in terms of the board and leadership at the Walt Disney Company. Whether Elon is even aware of that, you know, does he even know about the Peltz Perlmutter situation? I don't know, man. He doesn't even know how to spell Iger's name correctly in these tweets. So I'm hazarding a guess at this hour Elon is not aware of the upcoming Peltz Perlmutter Iger proxy war that will be going on into the beginning of next year. But if Elon was made aware of that, it could make for a very interesting situation where you could see something akin to what happened in 2005 with Michael Eisner, where the shareholders, they upset the status quo, they go against who the board wants them to nominate and actually votes out the current leadership, overthrows the current leadership at the company. I don't want to present this in any sort of way where I'm trying to take a side or anything like this. I'm a little bit suspicious of either outcome, honestly. I feel like if Disney keeps going down the way it is, it's just going to keep being the way it is, and it's just going to be like we're just going downhill. And if it goes a different direction, it could just lead to the entire implosion of the company in short order, where it's sold off in parts, as we see with corporate raiders, as we see when companies get taken over by other people. Oftentimes, everything's just divested and thrown into the wind, and that would be a horrible outcome for Disney as well. So if we are going to get new people in charge, new leadership, it has to be the right people, and I think that that is a difficult task. So I'm not here to take a side or anything like that. I just want you to have all of these different possible vectors for change at Disney on your radar in the event a massive shareholder class action lawsuit or perhaps a shareholder overthrow of the current board comes to pass, because both of those are potential outcomes for ending the current stasis at Disney and could be something that we see develop heading into 2024. Let me know what you guys think about everything we talked about here today. Definitely some topical stuff to say the least. Be sure to subscribe with those notifications on to stay up to date on the latest Disney news. Also, check out the Mickey Views store as we wrap up our grand opening celebration with our first release of products here. Thank you so much to everyone who supported the channel this way and to all of you for just tuning into the videos. Special shout out also to our patrons who support us throughout the year, which is a huge help, especially when we actually go and need to film stuff in person. It costs a lot of money to do that. I have a big trip that'll be coming up early next year where we're going to be taking a look at the latest happening in Epic Universe and some other projects in the Orlando area, and the patrons definitely help a lot with their contributions there. And our patrons will be getting a Christmas present as they do every year. And also, I'd like to give a big shout out to those of you who supported us for free just by using our Amazon affiliate link on mickeyviews.com/support. When you start your Amazon shopping, you just go through that, and then parts of Amazon's profits actually go to us instead, which is a free way you can support the channel, which I also very much appreciate. Everyone has been doing that. Thank you all of you for this incredible year, watching the videos, being subscribed, and all the rest. It really, really means a lot to me. All the commenters, everyone who interacts with the channel, it really, really means a lot. I have some big projects already planned in the works for next year, which should be pretty cool, so stay tuned for all of that. We got some big stuff coming up here at Mickey Views. Merry Christmas to all of you from the Mickey Views Magic Studio. This is Brayden. Have a magical day.